Ferio, the messaging today obviously extremely important. It is safe to fly and it is safe to travel, and this is the message you have for the trade. And can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, I mean, look, our view is it is safe to travel and it is safe to fly. Today is an opportunity to give everybody a chance to see the multiple layers that have been put in place to ensure that safety and at the same time give people a sense of comfort and confidence that you're able to do that. And so what will you see, or what will people traveling today see? They will see, starting with the airport environment, electrostatic spraying. They will see security right at the entrance. No one is allowed now into the airport unless you have a boarding pass or you are an employee, so we're limiting the amount of people actually in the facility. And then traveling through from check-in, a mandatory PPE in place while you're traveling through the airport, temperature checking and screening as you're going through the security line. And then once on board, we will have electrostatic spraying that is going in and cleaning, all of the hard surfaces on arrival, and limiting even the amount of additional collateral that's in the seat to avoid any additional surfaces. And then, the HEPA filter system, which cleans and scrubs the air, depending on the aircraft, every 20 to 30 minutes during flight. So, all of those measures in place, we are very, very confident that this is a very safe, sterile environment for people to transit within.
The thing is, as you well know, being in charge of government relations, there is only so much that you can do. You can control what you can control, which is work with the airport on airport procedures and in the aircraft and the HEPA filters and all those wonderful measures. However, there's not a whole lot you can do about travel advisories. So the question I have for you is, it is my impression that the travel advisories and all of the restrictions that Ottawa has put in place on travel are very popular with consumers.
Yes.
So politically, it is not necessarily in Trudeau's interest to change any of that, no matter how much pressure the airlines are putting on Ottawa. Would you tend to agree with that?
Well, look, I would tend to agree with that. And I would say that, it comes down to public sentiment. There's no surprise that people are rightfully concerned about going out and worried about their personal safety. I come back to this. I mean, the public health authorities have put measures in place for all of the right reasons, and people need to take personal accountability on how they carry themselves, irrespective of whether you're in an airport, in a shopping mall, or in a restaurant. You should be donning PPE. You should be making sure that you've got the distancing in place. I do believe that with respect to the travel measures that have currently put in place, they were fitting 3 and 4 and 5 months ago when the pandemic was full blown. But what are we seeing today? Today we are seeing the curve coming down. We're seeing the R0 level being reduced. We are seeing people more inclined to be personally responsible. So I think the measures today now may be somewhat stale dated. In particular, we point to the 14-day quarantine, where with testing being done in local areas and so on, that many countries around the world have lifted the 14-day quarantine because they've demonstrated through good science that curves have gotten flat, R0 levels and transmission rates have reduced, and as a result, they've deemed it safe. Now, you have to take that from a point of view of saying, if that does become start to rise or adjust, then you have to go back to adjusting otherwise. But I do believe that there is now room for us to really, in a measured way, look at ways in which we can now start to adjust some of the travel restrictions and measures that have been put in place, and in the right places.
Now, you're the one at the negotiating table. You're the one sitting across from the ministers in charge of making these decisions. Do you think that the 2-week quarantine will be extended beyond August 31st?
It's tough to say. I'm not getting a lot of a real indication as to what that where that would lead to, but there's good potential that would happen. I mean, to be frank, you're seeing what's going on in the United States. I think it's safe to say that in pockets of the United States, the reopening may not have been done and was not done in a measured fashion. As a result, that weighs into public health authorities and the way they look at it. I just come back to this. There are very, very competent and effective health authorities around the world that have lifted 14-day quarantines, and they've done it with science, where they've demonstrated, even with a low risk tolerance, that they've been able to do it. And I think it's time Canada take a very, very hard look at that. It is probably the single most important factor or item that's impacting travel demand today. And, and there are a lot of people, and you see it today, that actually want to get out and travel. Not everyone is afraid to do that, and everybody is saying, I'll do my part to be safe and trust that the system is safe. And when I arrive on the ground, I'll do the safe things in the places that I go to. But I want to be now given the opportunity and the freedom to move about freely.
Well, on behalf of the travel industry, we thank you for all the efforts you're making to loosen the restrictions and, most importantly, of course, the 14-day quarantine.
We thank you. Thanks for your support as well. We will all get through this together.